Employee of the Year, Episode 1, written by Jeremy M. Gottwig, narrated by the author. More information at strangeshuttle.com. All one word, strangeshuttle.com. Episode 1, Chapter 1. Men in suits droned on about earnings, forecasts, and proposed products. Chet Eubanks heard nothing but echoes. He looked over his shoulder at the conference room doors. He imagined Beatrix bursting through those doors. He imagined her whispering apologies as she reclaimed her seat. She had been gone for over an hour. Out of the corner of his eye, Chet watched Steve, his manager, and her father glance back at those same doors. Steve crossed his arms over his potbelly, dropped his gaze to the table, and mumbled, "Back in a minute, my ass." Chet returned his attention to the stage and tried to get his bearings on the proceedings, but the besuited VP behind the podium looked like all the others. The downward trending graph on the screen reminded Chet of previous downward trending graphs. Chet glanced at the meeting agenda. It didn't help. He knew that his moment was coming. He maintained his faith that Beatrix would reappear. He wanted her to see him receive the award. He wanted her to realize that he was meant for greatness. He wanted this revelation to lead to a conversation that lasted longer than 60 seconds. And then, in a few years, he wanted her sitting next to him as he slowed his vehicle and started down some secluded trail into the forbidden depths of the South Dakota Badlands. He hoped the ruddy vistas might maximize the dramatic effect. All those years behind the register finally paid off, he would say. Beatrix's eyes might widen at the sight of the vessel hidden at the bottom of a deep ravine. "My starship," Chet might say. "Our starship." Beatrix would study every angle and curve of the vessel as they bucked and rocked down the slope. Chet imagined that her short green hair bounced with the rhythm of the trail. He would skid to a stop and watch Beatrix hop to the ground and pass through the dust cloud on her way to the hull. "It's real," she might say as she pressed her palm against the plating. "Permission to come aboard, Captain?" Chet tried to imagine her tattoos, but the patterns seemed to swirl and shift through the haze of memory. He whispered the words out loud. "Permission is granted." Steve cleared his throat. Chet lifted his gaze to the stage. The podium was empty. "Wait, what?" Chet gasped, terrified that they had called his name during his daydream. "Quiet," Steve shushed. Chet's dad added, "They haven't called you yet." "Sorry," Chet whispered. Steve cracked the can of beer he kept on reserve in his left pants pocket. "Stress medicine," Chet's manager called it. "Shouldn't be long," Steve grumbled. He took a slurp. Morton Krautwasser, Burger's own CEO and star of all those employee orientation videos, ascended the stage. The audience applauded. "Big man himself," mumbled Steve. "Get ready." He pulled several gulps from his can and breathed a silent belch. "I hope you're all enjoying Las Vegas, my friends," the CEO started. He flashed the winningest smile Chet had ever seen. "By now I know most of you are tired of hearing about trends and trials, and I promise you that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. At this point, you're probably all asking yourselves, what about solutions?" Chet heard the doors pop open. He looked back to see another busboy. "There's still time," Chet whispered. His stomach ached with anticipation and worry. He wished he could write a program to summon Beatrix into the room. He imagined her as some elusive byte of data. The CEO uttered the words, "First contact," and Chet dropped his thoughts and shifted his focus to the stage. "It's a big unknown for us right now, but I think we can all agree that it presents us with unprecedented opportunities." The CEO took a sip of operant liquid from his crystalline tumbler. "We have learned that there are tens of thousands of intelligent species in this so-called Galactic Alliance. If they have teeth, I want them consuming our products. Of course, wanting and having are two different things. We hear talk of delay after delay when it comes to forming this new global Congress, and I have to be honest, I don't think we're going to see any laws governing how we as a planet interface with galactic commerce anytime soon. But I promise you this, Burger's own corporation is not sitting still. We might not be able to legally open any establishments in space, but we have top people conducting market research and working out strategies. Once this global Congress finally completes its work, and opens Earth's door to the universe, we are going to hit the ground running while our competitors are left scratching their heads. Space is our planet's future, and I want it to be this company's future." Polite applause poured through the hall like a shallow waterfall. Chet clapped for the first time that evening. Speaking of our future, I think it's time we honor ours. Allow me to introduce one of our top managers. This fellow turned one of Maryland's worst performing locations into one of the company's best. He shows no sign of slowing down. Come on up here, Steve. I hear you have quite the story to tell about one fine young man. Chet's manager downed the rest of his beer, stood, and straightened his shirt. Here we go, kid. He glanced at the conference room doors and rubbed a hand over his thick mustache. After giving his pants a tug, he moved down the aisle and climbed the 3 steps to the stage. Chet peered at the doors one last time and let himself accept the truth. She wasn't coming back. She wouldn't see him receive his award. Their eyes wouldn't lock as he returned to his chair. She wouldn't lean over and whisper congratulations. Her breath and lips wouldn't tickle his ear. Chet sighed as he fixed his eyes on the stage. The CEO shook Steve's hand and stepped aside. Steve adjusted the microphone and said, I'm not in Baltimore anymore. I'm in South Dakota now. Family issues. He pulled a sheet of paper and a pair of reading glasses from his shirt pocket. So if the award says Baltimore, you might want to get that fixed. He cleared his throat. Or maybe I misunderstood something. Anyway, I'm here to introduce a kid that I've gotten to know pretty well over the past 3 years. Or I guess it's about 4 years now. Anyway, he's a good kid. And I felt that he deserved an award for always being to work on time, never missing a day, and never complaining about anything. The store even got robbed about a year back, and the thugs didn't get a dime. The kid still managed to make it through his shift. This is impressive as hell as far as I'm concerned. How many of you would do that? I guess not many. Steve glanced at the CEO and added, That's probably why you decided to pick him instead of the other reasons I mentioned. Mr. Krautwasser shrugged. Steve rubbed his nose. So there you have it. Short and sweet, right? He paused and looked at the paper in his hands. Decided not to use my speech. Should I introduce him now? The CEO clapped his hands and everyone else followed. Chet's heart pounded against his ribcage like an angry gorilla. The applause receded as the CEO leaned into the microphone. Come on up here, Chet. Mr. Eubanks, everyone. Burger Zone's Employee of the Year. Chet's brain flipped to autopilot. The next thing he knew, he was on his way back to his chair with the plaque tucked beneath his arm. The applause sounded like static in his ears. Chet paused in the aisle and looked over his shoulder at the CEO, who nodded once their eyes met. The only thing Chet remembered from his moment on the stage was Mr. Krautwasser whispering into his ear, I want you to come and see me after we're all done here. I have an idea I want to run by you. Steve descended the stage. You can get back to your chair now, he prompted. I gotta go look for that damned girl. Steve grabbed his orange baseball cap and rushed for the exit. Chet wanted to follow, but he had a meeting to attend. The applause stopped the moment Chet's butt landed in his seat.